Oh, here we go.
Hey,
Sean, how are you?
hey, you
How are
did
you?
it. We did it.
I'm so, you know what it is? They have different options if you log in
Right.
on your laptop versus your phone. I was like,
Yeah.
no, I've done this before.
Yeah, it looks like it's only available on a cell phone, but hey, it's all good. We're here now. David, what's up, man? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's absolutely nice to meet you. It's very cool to see you. So, for those folks that will be listening to this, so Sean Donohue, I've seen him online. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about yourself in terms of how
Sure.
you arrived to go online,
Yeah,
and then we could just
sure.
let the conversation go.
Sounds good. Hey, man, thanks for having me. Excited for whatever we're going to talk about. Yeah, I'm a 45-year-old man. I've been married to my wife, Danielle, for 20 years. I've got three kids. The oldest is 19, the youngest is 7. And somewhere in the middle is 14. Pretty typical American male. Love lots of different things that most of men my age enjoy, and I make parenting videos. I help parents from all around the world through my social media videos, through private sessions, my membership, and my podcast, which is one of the top 10 parenting podcasts in the world, the Sean Donohue Show. And now I'm here with you. So
That's
how's it going?
incredible. Oh my gosh. So you're gonna have to tell me how you got in terms of building this out. I want to hear the story, why you actually chose to be so public online, because that's
Yeah.
a that's a
Okay.
that's a weird thing, and I think that sort of relates to a lot of the stuff that we'll talk to towards the end of this.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Also, I was just enjoying some of your videos, David, and I see your focus on business development, technology, science. So yeah, I want to kind of love talking about all those things, so I can kind of, even tell the story and focus on some of the things that you want to focus on. So yeah, I think my story is that I started working with kids when I was a kid, when I was 20. Just like we all know people who are like camp counselors at those camps that we all used to go to, those sleepaway camps. And
Yeah.
so when I was in college, I was like trying to make some money, and I started, being a camp counselor, and the campers called me Hooch, based on that awesome 90s movie Turner and Hooch with Tom Hanks. It's a great movie. And I just had a different career path at the time, and I just thought, this kind of feeling, it was not like a calling, it was like a draw, like my life's supposed to be around some type of kids or working around families. And
Yeah.
one thing led to another. I started working in nonprofits, started just learning more, researching more, reading a lot of books. And then what happened with me is, do you remember that TV show from the 2010s? It was called The Super Nanny, by any chance?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to watch that when I was a little rugrat.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's it.
so the super nanny was this like English lady, and it was one of the world's first reality shows. And she would go into everyday like American homes, and she would help the families through their chaos. And I was watching that show as a young dad at the time. I was like, this is a great idea. She's like really helping. At least it seems like she does. Reality TV show. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I should do that. I should like figure out how to become like a kind of like a male super nanny, like a dude super nanny that can really be helpful. And then one thing led to another. I just started having a lot of success, a lot of speaking engagements. And then I started making social media videos, and they sucked in the beginning. No one watched them.
Yeah.
Now I think
Yeah.
I have around like 1.5 million followers just on the platforms, and people seem
Yeah,
to
that's
enjoy my
crazy.
videos.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's really cool because I was just wondering how you got into, because being public is really challenging.
Yeah.
And I was kind of
Hey,
thrust into the
yeah.
idea of being public in terms of what I
Yeah.
was doing. And I could tell you a little bit about
Yeah,
how
please
this
do.
whole
Yeah,
rest.
tell me a little bit about yourself and about why would you want me on your show?
Yeah,
I'm kind of
absolutely. Yeah,
curious. Like,
yeah, yeah.
how does this all how do I fit into, what we're talking about here today? And looks like we got someone here with us live. Chris, how's it going? So yeah, tell me,
Yeah.
David, what tell me about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did my PhD. I'm Canadian, did my PhD, and I was an engineer. And then I went into, did a business PhD. And one of the things that stuck with me throughout the process was that it's really hard to do this.
Okay.
And there is a lot of anxiety, a lot of emotion that comes up when you do something that's challenging and difficult.
Yeah.
Um, And one of the solutions that I had was coming up with a technical solution. I was like, I'm gonna, I'm an engineer,
Okay.
nerdy kind of innovation person. That's what I
Yeah.
studied. It's
Yeah.
like I could build this platform where I could build a technical solution to help us out in terms of making a platform so it's easier for me to actually do work.
Cool. Yeah.
And I put this out on the internet, right? Like I was able to build this. There's a long story there, but I put this
Yeah.
out on the internet, and there was crickets. And
Yeah.
so I started looking around, and then I found, some videos in terms of how to do this stuff on YouTube. And then um, I started doing videos myself, and that was kind of the challenge, was doing videos. And as I started doing these videos, I realized that the stuff that people were resonating with were a lot of the things that people would be up at about 2 or 3 in the morning. They'd wake up in a
Oh,
panic,
yeah. Yeah.
and they would be thinking, "Why is this happening to me?" Like,
Oh, okay.
why
Okay.
why is this not working out? And so I started talking about those things in a much more open way,
Okay.
in a much more raw way, and that's where we are here, because you started
Cool.
popping up. I started going on TikTok, putting videos on TikTok, and then you started coming up, and I was like, who is this guy? He actually
Yeah.
makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah.
You don't you're totally different than what a lot of people
Mm.
do
Mhm.
on these
Mhm.
platforms that are much more geared towards quick wins and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you are a lot more about, how do you become more authentic? How do you become
Yeah.
a human
Yeah.
being?
Right. Yeah.
which which I was like, I gotta reach out to this guy, because
Thank
he is
you.
being a human being online, um, and which is really different. You're very
Yeah.
counterintuitive to the majority of the people that are doing things online. And I wanted to talk to
Yeah.
you and see,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I
yeah,
think that's yeah, I think that's my couple responses to that is I think that's you know what parenting does for us. Parenting like is so challenging and so emotional. For most of us, it's like the most emotional thing we'll ever do. And it brings out our authentic selves, the good, the bad, and the freaking very ugly. And
yeah,
so the way I want to make videos and the way I want to handle this interview is just keep it real. I want to, because, and I want to be authentic. So thank you for saying that, because also because the family unit is normally such a private unit, oftentimes there's a lot of people that don't really talk about parenting or marriage or all the struggles
yeah.
of what you have to endure and what what you're going through. And so yeah, I want to make these videos to be helpful and also help people to be more like in touch with their children, with their emotions and all that crazy stuff that's happening in everyday home life.
Yeah, and I was just really resonating with some of the things in terms of, this is good management advice as well, of thinking about, how do you interact with other people?
Right.
How do you approach a difficult
Yeah.
conversation often, which is,
Yeah.
that's a lot of the stuff that we deal with in everyday life. And that's why I was like, how
I,
do we,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
that's the
think you.
thing.
I just met you, so I don't know, but I think you're really gonna enjoy what I'm about to say. Like,
Okay.
so often, so much of good parenting is about actually taking these business skills that we have about soft startups, about negotiations, about working with challenging partners, about keeping your calm, your cool under pressure. So much of good parenting is a mind game. It's a mindset, and that's so much of what good business is and good
Yeah.
business relationships. It's about a mindset. So one of my favorite things I love, I hear it quite a bit from my clients who are like CEOs or business executives, or even like people who have been trained in other types of like communication practices from their corporate life. They'll look at my resources and they'll look at good parenting, and it's like the first time in their life they'll ever looked at anything parenting. Like, oh my gosh, like this looks familiar.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
just took I
Yeah.
like this is really good. Like, and then the light comes on. I had a man named David just come on a couple days ago. He's like, I just realized something. I was like, what's going on? It's like, I do so much of this stuff at work, but I don't do it in the home. And that is so common.
Yeah, it is. It is so common because I think it's easy for us to decompress at home.
Yeah.
It's we put on the, I think Irving Goffman. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he had this idea of we have the front stage and backstage, right? So the front stage is the stuff that you
Yeah.
display outside of your home,
Yeah.
and then your backstage is all that stuff that's going on behind the scenes.
Mhm.
And it's so easy to get into that trap. And I know, at least in my family, so I have two kids. One's that's 12, the other one's that's 14.
All right.
Um,
12 and
y-
14. All right.
yeah,
I got a 14-year-old myself. Yeah. Tell me about your 12 and 14, man.
it's I mean, it's really good in terms of dealing last night. So I'm gonna give you a real scenario in our family. Um, I wasn't managing that situation very well, and that's easy to
Mhm.
get into.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
as
Here, let me ask you a question. I want you to gather your thoughts because I know I know parenting and social media and YouTube enough to I'm guessing what you're thinking. When you said a couple minutes like a minute ago, I shouldn't be sharing this. Here's I think what's happening, everybody, is part of the problem of parenting and family stuff when you're talking about social media is that you have to honor your kids' privacy.
absolutely, yeah,
And you can't cross that line. And like,
yeah,
here we are, we want to be authentic, but we can't just go ahead and start talking about our wives or our kids or like saying negative things because that's like messed up. That's partly why it's so hard to find somebody on social media that you like and you connect with because
hmm,
it's like they have to be so good with like sharing their personal life,
yeah,
but not cross that line
yeah,
and
yeah,
honoring all the other people in their house. And so you can tell these stories, but you have to tell them so well. So it's a tough line. Is that kind of why you said I shouldn't? That's why I think
yeah.
I
I
saw
mean,
you
it's an
spinning a
everyday
little bit.
thing. No, that's exactly it, and I go through that a lot with being online because I try to express my emotions as much as I can.
Yeah,
With the whole, doing research, a lot of people don't understand this. It's a really stressful thing. Like, you
yeah,
are under the gun a lot.
mhm,
And I try to express these emotions without going to the moments where it's not necessarily hurting other people. And that's a really challenging thing.
mhm, mhm.
Um, and
Yeah,
that includes, right, like, stuff that's going on at home, stuff that's
mhm,
going on in my mind. I'm not necessarily, many times I'm not,
yeah,
in a good sense in terms of feeling like I'm positive, and
yeah,
all of that. And what I'm trying to do with this whole, what I've learned is to be more of, let other people see
mm,
what it is to be somebody in the struggles that we sort of face in the day to day.
okay, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and so that there is other people that they feel comfortable with
yeah,
having the same emotions, the same sort of feelings, the same experiences. But,
right. Okay,
um
let me share something about parenting for
okay.
you and for your audience. I want to see how you respond because looking at your videos, you have a lot of really great videos about R&D, about getting your doctorate, about science, and so you're attracting an audience who are really just into the mind and into logic and into science and into growing. Is that fair assessment? Do you agree?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, all right. So here's what I wanted to share is that. Um, Sometimes people whose minds are more focused on logic or on the right brain, sometimes they really struggle in parenting because emotions maybe don't come as natural for them or they're just not as enjoyable a part of their life or not as a natural part of their life or maybe they even had a bad experience with them. But children, tweens, teenagers, these are highly emotional beings. We're actually all humans, in my opinion, are highly emotional beings.
Hmm.
It's just that if you become an adult who defines themselves as I'm stoic or I'm not emotional, probably what happened is that through nature and nurture your experience, you learn to kind of maybe suppress or to push away or to deprioritize the emotional side of life. And that's okay. But one of the ways to thrive in parenting is really just about connecting with your kid on that heart level, that
Yeah.
special heart
Yeah.
talk level. Trust, intimacy, hugs, kisses, vulnerability, emotion coaching. And that kind of makes sense, right? That there's like only one or two people in a child's life that is going to do that for a child.
Yeah.
And so, part of what it means if you have a more right brain, if you have 50,000 PhDs, like you sounds like you do, it sounds like you might have to work a little harder to really be okay. My child doesn't need logic right now. My child doesn't need me to write them a thesis on how to feel better. My child just needs me. Okay, yeah, that's a good. I'm glad you like a joke. My child just needs me to really show up right now with
Yeah.
loving intention, empathy, patience, and all this lovey-dovey stuff. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I so this is the one of the things that's challenging within the particular career is to
Mhm.
be very stoic. And that is a social norm,
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
sort of stoicism that's part
yeah,
of it. And there's
yeah,
also this weird social norm that family does not matter, right? That
yeah, yep,
it's a
yep,
high stress career. It's kind of like, if you're a corporate lawyer,
yeah,
and that you can't necessarily show your family life. And if you
yeah.
do, then that's somehow problematic. You hear a lot of stories about,
Wow.
what it where people are afraid to often talk about their families, talk about
Mm,
openly about things that are going on,
mm,
and it's under
mm.
underappreciated, right? And
Yeah,
so
great.
I think, and so one of the things in my family is that my wife and I are both working professionals, and we're
Cool.
balancing this sort of stress of,
Yeah,
how do we manage this crazy high stress career,
yep,
at the same time being good parents where
yeah,
we're handing off constantly,
yeah.
um, and as well modeling to our kids that this is healthy behavior to do these things, to be open. Um, yeah, okay.
Top 10 things all parents should do, especially in 2024 when our lives are filled with screens. It is so key to help our kids see our humanity. And this is really actually harder and easier said than done because many of us grew up with parents who shielded their humanity from us, or the only emotion we saw for them was anger or snapping.
Yeah.
And then or you have this some people are like, yeah, you shouldn't share your feelings with your kids, which is so ridiculous because you're always sharing your feelings with your kids. You know, your kids are not dumb. They know
Yeah.
when you're angry and pissed off. So if you ever say, yeah, I don't share my feelings with my kids, pretty much what you're saying is, yeah, all I show my kids is my happiness and my anger. And I just leave it up to them to guess what I'm feeling. So yeah, I like what you're saying about this. So what tell me your thoughts, yeah, on
Yeah,
what I
no,
said there.
so that's actually the really fun thing I'm trying to do. By the way, Mirrored Productions and Taylor, nice to see you. So what I began to realize as I started doing this is that this is almost like a legacy for my kids
Mhm.
to see and my family to see, and it's actually really kind of fun
Yeah.
where some of my family members do see this.
Hmm.
And they see all the different videos, and it's really just humanizing the experiences that we go through, and
Yeah.
managing this as
Right.
best as we possibly can, because
Yeah.
you can't be that person, um, and that particular individual that is very stoic all the time. You have
Hmm.
to
Right.
often just be
Mm.
human. And for
Yes.
me, so one of the things that's challenging for me is that you're bang on with that, is that my parents. My dad really didn't show his emotions. He passed away about
Yeah.
20 years ago,
Yeah.
and very, very like old fashioned in terms of how he
Yeah.
managed things from like the
Yeah.
1950s. And so you never showed emotion. You never, particularly as a guy. um, and so it's weird for me to do a lot of this in an open forum so other people can see, and it feels weird, right? And so I'm always reconciling this. What does it mean? A lot of this channel, even the fact that you see all of those sort of things, those videos that are popping up, but a lot of it is reconciling. How do we deal with that inner child that's inside that
Yeah.
wants to go often and cry in the corner,
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
the professional life that we often,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I'm
Let me
assuming you
compliment you.
probably experienced that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
let me
curious.
compliment you right now, and let me say something really positive too. So the at the same time, so um, you and I, it sounds like, even I just met you. We're like redefining what a true man is, and what true like masculinity is. Here you are. You have a video. You have a YouTube page that really focuses on a lot of right brain things, right? Things of the business and pushing yourself and pushing new boundaries, technology, science, and now you're a man who just said the inner child. So that's like pretty incredible that you're able to have those things, and that's why I'm really happy to be here, because that's just like a what a well balanced man should do, right? It's like not left or right. It's how do we meld both? How can we be these strong men like our dads wanted us to be, but these, the men of the older generation, they really minimize feelings, family. They didn't talk about many things, and we're like, look, let's not do that. It's not good for us. It's not
Yeah,
even real.
yeah,
But the problem with us though is that we have to figure this out through books and social media, because
yeah.
most of us, including me, we didn't have men role models and us showing us how to do this. And this is kind of, I think, probably why you wanted to have me on, just to be like, hey, let's
Absolutely.
talk
No,
about it.
that's exactly it. You're like one of the only people that I've seen that's particularly in the family therapy space. That seems
Yeah.
like a cool guy. Like
Yeah.
don't
Thanks.
take this the wrong way. I just met you, but you kind of seem like a surfer dude, and
Yeah.
and you're managing life in a way that I appreciate.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, and that's a challenging thing to do, right? Because here you are, you're building this probably a fairly decent sized practice now,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and you're able to bring up some tough conversations.
Yeah, I think
And
that something that came to mind is like I do a lot of like on social media. I watch a lot of business, a lot of marketing. I mean, for me, like social media is actually just marketing. Like it was me realizing years ago, okay, if I want to help more people, how do I become larger on social media? So I had to grind. I had to figure it out. And so the problem with so much people on business social media is that these are super great people, super smart people, and they give great business advice. But so few of them are actually incorporating like mental health elements or family
yeah,
health elements. And so like I said this to a client just yesterday. One of the keys to being a healthy adult, a healthy business person, is and a healthy family member, a healthy leader in your home, is you have to have a really clear definition of success. What is success? Is
yeah, yeah,
having $10
yeah, yeah,
million
yeah,
dollars in the bank success to you? But what if your kids hate you? Is having $20 million in the bank and you've got a nice car, but your teenagers are just running amok and they're running wild, their moral system is all jacked up? Is that success? Or could success be you and your spouse are in love and you're united and you are caring for each other and you've got some kids and they're going through their ups and downs, but you're loving on them, you're mentoring them, you're caring for them, you're not enabling them, you're coaching them, and life is messy and it's not perfect, but you're there and you feel like I'm happy, I'm finding joy in this, and I have some money in the bank. That to me sounds like success, if you ask me.
Yeah, you know what? And this is the thing that I always I talk about so much on this channel because in the scientific world, we measure success in a slightly different way. It's not necessarily,
Hmm.
bigger houses and more
Hmm.
larger
Hmm.
bank accounts. We measure in terms of the number of citations, the number of publications that we get,
Right. Yep.
and
Yep.
it's stressed so much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet here's, myself and I think a whole bunch of other people, because I think that's what's happening is that there's a lot of people that are resonating with it, that,
Hmm.
their life feels not like that at all. Right?
Yeah.
Like they feel like they're falling apart. And I'm hoping that people learn from this and say, hey, wait a minute, what if we redefine a lot of
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. You have
And
to.
what you have to,
You
right? Like
have
you
to.
can't abide by that idealistic
You have to.
mission.
All
Uh,
these other people and all the social media characters, it's like there's so when we're in college or undergrad or postgrad, we all come up with these definitions of success and what it visualizes, and that's good. Like for us to achieve our goals, we have to have a vision for who we want to be. But every day we have to wake up. If you have a spouse and if you have children, and you have to take a breath and you have to check your head, then you have to say, what's really the most important thing here?
yeah,
What is
absolutely.
true success?
Mhm.
Because if you working 50, 60 hours a week to accomplish your childhood dreams or to make your dad happy or to prove yourself to the world, if that is what you pursue and in the end you neglect your own children, you're not really there, you're not a present parent, you're letting your kids be raised by screens or by dummies on social media. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. I don't feel like that's a healthy definition of success. And that's what
Yeah,
that's the beauty of children and family. And that's
yeah,
for me, I think the purpose of life. And that's part of your success. Like what is life about? And for me, it's about relationships. And what is the most important relationship of all? Well, it's your family. It's your children. It's your marriage if you have one, protecting that. Yeah.
yeah. So let me ask you this: how do you manage that? Because that's in in our profession. A lot of people feel like they have to work 24/7, and some people will work all
Mm,
night long.
yeah.
And there might be the occasional person that can do that. And that's the thing that's like, nerve wracking is that there probably is. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I don't think most people can. I think the majority of us feel like we're a mess all the time. So how do you push back
Yeah.
against those norms?
Okay.
What are the tricks
Yeah. Here,
or
here's a couple things to think about. Yeah. Is I wasn't planning on even answering the question this way, but I think what I just said is actually tip number one. Wake up every day and remind yourself what is your version of success, right?
Mhm,
What is health, right? Like that is good. Number two is we've got to talk about it. We've talked about mental health a lot, but talk about our own mental health. A
mhm,
parent's self-care is so key. Like for me, I have a business, I have employees, I have stresses, I have a lot of going on. I'm building a house right now and I've got all these other things. And those are all good things, but they're not the most important things. The most important things is my wife
mhm,
first,
mhm,
over the kids, my
mhm,
children,
mhm,
and everything else is a distant, second. Throwing in maybe my own spirituality and my own mental health is of course tied in.
mhm.
So, I mean, that's something they don't really teach us in graduate or postgraduate. Hey, if you have these great dreams, but don't forget everybody. Don't forget what's up here in your own mind. And I can tell you a couple more points too. But let me just pause. Do you think isn't that the answer you would expect from me, the family coach, right there? Like that's not a shocking answer, is it?
It's not shocking, but I think it's actually really important. The way that I frame this is that there is some really great research that doesn't get as much play, but in the business world, we often have multiple goals, and the goal that actually gets prioritized and we talk about a lot is performing well at any given day. But
Hmm.
there is another goal that does really that we should be focused on is
Yeah.
survival and making sure that we
Yeah.
um, are doing things to make sure that we can do the things that we want to for as long as we possibly can and be happy and healthy
Mm,
along the way. Right? There's
yeah.
there's one thing to sort of maximize your performance, be a billionaire by the time that you're 40, but another thing to, you know, get there by the time that you're
Right.
100. And that's a
Yeah,
completely
man.
different story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and there's so many, you play the game completely differently often. Um, so how do you, one of the things that I'm curious about, what if you had external pressures from that? That's often the things
Well, you
that,
do. I do. I do. I have
yeah.
personal external pressures. So this is why, like, the third thing to answer your question, this is, I think, an answer. I think, I hope you all love this answer, but a word that I love and I do a lot of teaching around is the word closeness.
Hmm.
Um, Being close with people is hard, and
Hmm.
being close with your children is hard. Being close to this 8-year-old is not that hard if you have the time and you have the patience, but being close with a 14-year-old can be really hard. That's what you got, David. You got a 14-year-old too. I've got a 19-year-old. And so, like, you know, as we think about pursuing our goals and our businesses, we've got to remember and keep our minds in check and realize that, we can become accomplish all these great goals and do all these great things for the world, or
Yeah.
do these great things for ourselves, and we feel so good, we got plaques, we've got dollars in the bank. But then, on your birthday, how many people call you? When you're going through a hard time, do you feel comfortable calling that one person or two, right? And this
Yeah.
is kind of the cool thing about closeness. Closeness is not like, being a friend with 50,000 people. It's not being like a thousand feet wide and an inch deep. It's about, like, this is the keys to the human experience. It's just dealing and experiencing and doing the work needed for these intimate relationships. And I don't think there's any more precious or special ones than the family unit. And that's why I make these videos,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, no, and that's I often resonate with some of the things that you were saying was like, um, we want to build these bonds. Like I grew up in a family and I love my family. They're great parents.
Yeah,
But
man.
there was
Cool. Awesome.
always a very much a distinction between,
Mm.
parents and kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
my view has changed over the years where and you I think you had posted something how you become more of a mentor as your kids get older.
Yeah, man. So yeah, that's a good way to think about, like, even almost like a little escalating chart. And you think about when your
Yeah.
children are young, your job is to protect your children, right? Make sure they don't get hit by a car, make sure they're fed. And then in the elementary school, they need a lot of teaching. They're asking why, why. I mean, it's just hilarious the questions that an elementary school kid. But then you've got to realize that, as you move into the middle school years, your kid may not want your teaching. And this is really hard, especially for someone who might be attracted to your type of videos. You think,
Yeah.
I like teaching, I like mentoring, I like telling my child what to do. I want to make them a mini me. I know a lot about life. I'm very smart and successful. So I want you to be it. Let me teach you.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets really sticky because the adolescent brain changes, and your middle schooler does may not want your teaching. And so it means to move into, like, more of a mentoring phase. And then in high school, we're talking more about coaching, about a more of a coaching phase. And I think as they think of moving into senior year of high school, I think another change, another shift should happen. We were thinking more of, like, almost like more of a, you're an adult, I'm an adult. You're still living here under my roof. I still love you, but I want you to be free. I want you to feel free. And I want you to feel like I'm your parent, but I'm also your friend. Right. And so these shifts, and this is what, good parents do. And this is what good parents think about. And this is why closeness is the key, because if you're close, then you're listening to your kid and you're hearing them tell you things like, I don't want your teaching right now. I don't want your three freaking tips, Dad. I don't want your help with my homework. I don't care how you feel about that topic. This is how I feel. And if you're listening well, then you're going to be responsive like it's a good dance partner. And this is tough. This is really tough to do.
Yeah. How did you get to that? How did you arrive upon this? Because this is it's even, I don't see this a lot where people talk about this in an open way. Um,
So
what
the,
made
the
you?
the main answer that I'll give you is not reading books on parenting. Those are fine things, and it's not listening to me on my podcasts or my videos. It's really listening to your kid.
Yeah.
And realizing you've got to parent the child you have, not the child you want. You got to parent the child you have, not the child you were. And realize that your kids are not like these little bonsai trees that we can snip and create just like us. They are like these wildflowers. They're going to grow where they want, how they want, and then so much of parenting is about how do you respond? Are you going to be a douche? Are you going to be weird? Are you going to be
Mhm.
lectury? Are you going to be a workaholic, an alcoholic? Are you going to be just totally avoidant? Kids will be kids. Are you going to let a screen raise your kid, or are you going to be that close connected parent that every child really needs?
That was very well said. And I think that's hard to do for most of us, right? Like for at least for me, often the emotions get in the way, and I've been working at that a lot
Me too.
as I've grown as a parent, right? And it's always this challenge where I need to prioritize some things, and it's easy to let those emotions get in the way.
That's
Um,
all of us, man. Just so you know, you're
yeah.
not alone. That's all of us. I'm the family coach and I struggle with my emotions. And
Yeah,
that is
no, I know,
it.
but I think that's the cool thing that you're actually saying and you're telling people is that you're a human being too.
That's another great tip. Everyone who's watching this, take this tip. The way David's talking to me, the way I'm talking to him, talk to your kids that way.
Yeah.
In a way where you're not afraid to say I'm sorry or say, hey, I wasn't raised this way, or I really have this pattern and I'm really trying to work on. I hope you can trust me. How can I help you feel better? How can I earn your trust? How can I grow as your parent? If you can change one rule in the house, what would it be? And tell me what you seemed to snap at me yesterday, and I didn't really know how to respond, so I didn't respond because I would have snapped back. But we're both cool and calm now. Like, what happened yesterday? And yeah, or you know what that really actually hurt my feelings. What happened, yesterday? Can we talk about it? See, that's like this is the way normal humans talk. And if it doesn't sound normal to you, it really says more about your childhood than anything because parents have been talking to their kids this way for a long time. You see it on TV, you saw it on
Yeah.
the Cosby Show, you saw it on Full House. There's been books written about this stuff that are decades old. This isn't some new age stuff that's coming out of California here.
And but that's the interesting thing is that it just takes so much time to do a lot of this work, right? Like it is a mind shift. You have to think completely differently compared to how you often were raised, and this goes to
Yeah, you do. That is a keep. Tell me more about that because
yeah.
that is a huge point. Tell me more about what you're thinking right now. How do
Yeah.
you have to think differently than how you were raised? Yep.
Yeah. I think the challenging thing is that you have to think in your head of if you were to do this in a different way, not necessarily right, but in a different way and manage a situation in a different way, how might you do that? What might that be? And I often think about myself. One of the a video that actually went quite viral um, was thinking about yourself in the third person as the
Mm,
hero in the room, right? So
mm,
instead of thinking of yourself and letting yourself getting caught up in the moment, sort of taking
mm.
yourself back and saying, how can I deal with this um, as wisely as I possibly can?
Yeah.
And that, at least for me, is often challenging. But at the same time, I think that's often the scenario where you have to view yourself as if you are the
Good.
third person dealing with
Good.
this conflict that's happening and that is not
Yes. Oh,
necessarily going to
good.
resolve itself.
That's a great thought because, yeah, what do heroes do? Okay. What do heroes do? Tell me more. Like, what do you think heroes do?
Yeah, no, so that is a challenging thing, right? Like the heroes. I don't know what happened to your screen, but something happened to it. That's okay.
Oh, am I still frozen?
You're blank.
I'm blank.
So
I can see you. Huh. Let me try to play
okay,
around with it.
that's fine.
No,
Um,
I got to fix this.
so I think the in terms of hero, that's actually a really good. conversation in what you would imagine a hero to be. But a hero, at least in my eyes, is somebody that's very kind.
Oh,
And,
kind. First thing you
and
think of is kind.
yeah, yeah, it's somebody that will look at the situation and sort of
Hmm,
make both people feel good in the situation.
that's
And that
interesting.
is sometimes challenging to do, and that's where the compromise comes. Yeah, it's not necessarily compromise, but thinking of a situation where everybody is doing better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and And often it's an arbitrary thing. At least I learned from my kids. It's like, you know, two kids are not going to share the same toy at the same time, but having
Yeah.
arbitrary rules where you're just like, okay, you get the toy for 5 minutes, you get the toy for another 5 minutes. Pretty arbitrary, but it seems to make
Yeah.
people feel recognized.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Um, and I think that's actually a big part of the business world too, is allowing people to feel recognized,
Mhm.
and acknowledged with their experiences that they're going through. Is knowing that they're not the only one that's going through this particular moment in time, and hearing that, um, being that heroic person that talks about that, um, is often very challenging.
It's a really
Right.
good answer, man. That's a beautiful answer. I loved it. I really loved it. I actually even started taking notes because it was so well done. Seeing yourself as the hero in the story. And am I still frozen? Can you see me okay?
It's fine. It's still frozen. I just see a blank screen, so I don't know
It's
what
so
happened there.
weird.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
weird, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
and
Maybe
I
it
think
worked
that's
out
what
okay.
heroes do. Heroes help people feel recognized. They help people feel seen. I think because I really just specialize in the family life and mental health. I mean, that's a part of being close with your kids is helping them to feel seen. That's part of the biggest challenge of kids. They're so, it's so emotional. They bring out the best in us. They bring out the worst in us. And partly is because they act in a way that we hate it. We don't like it. We don't like their choices. We don't like the way they're talking to us. And so, how do we show up as a hero in that moment? How do we help them feel seen, help them feel loved, help them feel safe, while also being their teacher and being their
Mhm,
guide? And that's what
mhm.
good parenting is about, right there. It's not just about bossing them around or making them afraid of you, because that really won't work anyway.
Yeah, and I also think too there is a lot of work to be done on yourself in terms of, if you imagine yourself as the hero, you
Mhm.
are also acknowledging yourself in this circumstance, right? You're acknowledging the fact that, you need a little bit of work as well.
Yeah.
And I'm always going through that because a lot of the experiences, I mean, life in general, right? This is not just about, the career that I'm in, but life in
Right.
general is often very uncertain.
Yeah.
And there's not really a right answer. And so
Yeah.
it's acknowledging that it's okay, whatever
Yeah.
choice that you make, we're never going to know what the right answer
Yeah.
is. And so it's okay, whatever choice that you actually make, as long as you're doing it with the best intentions at this time. And at least for me, it's really hard. So I'm very, like you're saying, like right. I don't know if it's right or left brain, but very much a engineer type that thinks that there's a
Mhm.
right answer
Mhm.
always.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's not parenting, though.
yeah, and
Parenting
it's
is the
not parenting, but it's
gray
not. It's
gray area. It's a rainbow of challenges. Man, you got a 14 and a 12-year old, and
yeah.
it's just this constant, feeling. That's why I like what you said about, like, having the right intentions. I really like that, because what is the right intentions? Here's a couple thoughts. All have children or adopt children for different reasons. Some people have children and they want their children to fulfill them. Some people want their children to live out their childhood fantasies or dreams, sports, like the sports star, for example. And some people want their children to heal them. But what our children do is that they don't do any of that stuff. In fact, the main thing, one of the main things that our kids do is that they actually trigger us. So we want them to do these things for us, but in the end, one of the main things they do is they trigger us, they bother us. And then that is what good parenting is about versus bad parenting. How do you respond when you realize your child is not your little mini me? You're not their little dream come true. You know, it is a messy challenge, and you got to learn how to love that kid, parent the child you have, not the child you want, and show up as the most amazing, loving parent that you can be. And that's when I think of when you say we got to have good intentions. Yeah, we do, because this is an emotional game. This is not a science report. You know, this is a lot of grays in parenting.
I couldn't say that any better. And part of it, when you're saying that, I'm also thinking of the little kid that I used to be,
Mhm.
and being the adult now, and realizing that I have to deal with many of those things as well, right? Of dealing with coaching that little kid in my brain,
Yeah,
that little child in my brain, and coaching
yeah,
them of making sure that they feel comforted often.
yeah, yeah.
Because I think, at least for me, a lot of those feelings that I have, or where it doesn't feel like I'm handling the situation well, is because
Mhm.
there's that part of my brain that is
Yeah,
still growing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So is there? So we're just about at the at an hour, and I apologize for taking a little longer at the beginning.
That's okay. We had a good time, man. We had a good time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is there anything that you would like to tell this audience of scientifically minded or management types, CEO types, I guess, that would be
Yeah,
interested?
that's who majority of my clients are. They're CEOs, they're executives, they're strong leaders. I would think that a couple things that I would say, a couple tips for you is to realize that this one of your goals as a parent is to not raise a successful child. And that's what you want. I know that's what you want. One of your main goals is that you want your child to look at you and say, you know what? There's a lot of people on this planet. There's a lot of people telling me what to do, and a lot of people telling me things, giving me advice, people on social media. But that person right there, that's my person. That's my person. No one else in the world treats me the way that person treats me. No one else in the world loves me the way that person loves me. No one else in the world gives me grace and gentleness and kindness. The whole world, they're going to eat me up. It's a tough world. And that person doesn't treat me that way because they're my person. The world is going to be harsh on your kids. And so you don't need to be harsh on your kid to prepare them for a harsh world. No, they need a person. They need a special person. And they need you to be uh, treat them in a way unlike you treat any other person. They are not your employee. They are not your dream come true. They are not your mini me. They are your child. And you've got to learn how to be real and loving and just love that kid. And that's what that kid really needs from you.
I think that's well said. Um,
Thanks, man.
I,
Thanks, buddy.
I'm gonna leave it with that, because I think it's what you said was resonated with me so much.
Okay,
But
cool. Thanks.
I think it also means with anybody that you want to build a relationship with, right? I think having that realness, I think, is such an important thing that
Yeah,
we
yeah,
forget about.
yeah.
Um, and if you're managing a large organization, or if you're working with other PhDs, is you
Mhm.
want to build those relationships that you would
Yeah.
like.
It's so true. Right. That's like right. Take that same thinking and just take it to your two or three best friends, your favorite cousins, your uncles. Take it to your neighbor. Right. How do you show up with so much love and intention in someone's life so they look at you and they're like, you know, what, that person's different. They really
Mhm.
care about me and my family, my children. That's the type of people we want to surround ourselves with, and we want those people around our kids.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Ultimately, I think that's all that matters in the end, anyways.
Hey David,
um,
man, love
all
being with you,
right.
man. I'm glad we worked out the technical issues. You really got such a great. You could just tell you're just combining the super sharp mind you have with a really sweet, smart, wise spirit, and I really love that about you. So thanks so much for having me, man.
And same goes to you too. I understand why so many people are resonating with what you're saying online, and keep it up. Don't don't change that aspect of things. Be as real as you currently are.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and if you
So
are watching
it's
this, yeah, you can find me. Thank you so much. You can find me on social media as the Family Coach, or on my podcast, which is called the Sean Donohue Show. It's one of the top 10 parenting podcasts in the world. So hey, man, it's so good talking life and family and
abs-
intention and goals here together with you.
absolutely. This was amazing. By the way, I've listened to a couple of your episodes on the podcast, and it's great. So I just do a
Oh,
little
thank you,
plug.
man. Thank you. Cool. Well, hey, you keep up the good work too, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.